VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. The Dark is Rising, Part 2. Hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guest Ingrid Turk.
Welcome to this VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Associate Director for VocalEye. I'm your host for these online events, and I'm a member of the blind community, just like you are. And so happy to spend time and space with you Wednesday after Wednesday after Wednesday. And a big thank you to those of you who have made donations and who have supported this work and the work that VocalEye does. It means a great deal to us, so please keep them coming. If you want to make a donation, you can do that through our newsletter, through our website, and also there's a link that'll be posted in the chat. But very much appreciate all of the lovely testimonials and all of the feedback that you give us when we ask for feedback. All of that gets collected so that donors and funders can see the impact that this programming has on us. So we very much appreciate all of that. And we can work out any kinks along the way that we need to. If you happen to be watching this particular event on our YouTube channel, we hope that you find the like button and the subscribe button and click on those. That would really, really help us out. VocalEye is broadcasting to you all from the traditional and stolen lands of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Peoples. Last week, I shared a little bit about the Ogopogo, which is the Ogopogo and its relationship to Indigenous folklore and storytelling. For those that didn't join us last week, well, you'll have to check out the YouTube to learn more about the Ogopogo. And so this week, for this Almost Live event, as we're going to be witnessing part 2 of the adventure of a boy's fight against ancient evil, well, I thought I would share with you another monster that I learned about in Indigenous culture. So this one is a little gruesome, friends. There's your warning. It's called the Flying Head, or also known as Big Head. And it's a cannibalistic monster belonging to the mythologies of the Iroquois and Wendat peoples of North America, and has appeared as an antagonist in numerous stories and legends. According to native folklore, during an especially severe winter prior to European arrival, an unknown tribe, they say from New York State area, was suffering from a famine. The young men of the tribe wished to move the group of people across the Great Lake to seek new opportunities, while the older men of the tribe, believing that the famine was a punishment by the spirits for all of their crimes, desired to stay and endure. Enraged by the old men's stubbornness, the young men killed them, decapitating them and dumping their heads into the lake. However, one of these young men that was involved in the massacre became entangled in the pile of heads, himself falling into the lake and drowning. Then, from out of the lake arose a giant head, taller than a man, coated in thick black hair, possessing wings and talons, which haunted the tribe and hunted those who perpetrated the killings. This demon, the Big Head, had haunted these tribes and many other tribes for a very long time, and had been offered many sacrifices. And then one day, many years later, this demon, the Big Head, came across an Iroquois woman who was roasting acorns peacefully by a fire and eating them. And this head, the Big Head, the Flying Head, the demon, thought that she was eating live hot coal from the fire. The Flying Head grew terrified of the strength of the Iroquois people and fled, never to return. But the area that is where the unknown tribe is from, in modern days, remains cursed, having had 3 hotels built on it, and all of them eventually perished to fire, perpetuating this demon folklore. I thought that was fitting for what we are going to experience tonight. So it's Wednesday, April the 5th, 2023, and tonight we're proud to offer you our Almost Live event number 116, which is part 2 of The Dark is Rising by Susan Cooper. And of course, in our space this evening is going to be Ingrid Turk, who's one of our describer extraordinaires here with VocalEye, and a big fan of this series. So Ingrid is going to pop in the square any moment.
Here I am.
There's Ingrid. Here you are. So, Ingrid, you're a big fan of this series. How many times have you listened to it?
Oh, I've listened to I this is my first time listening to this version of it because it's so recent. It just came
Yep.
out last winter, right?
Yep.
Um, I've read the series of novels.
Hmm.
There's five of them, probably four or five times. They're a comfort read for me.
Mm.
Uh, and I'm currently listening to the audiobook versions of them. And it just happened that it coincided, right? Just as I was about to start The Dark is Rising,
Hmm.
VocalEye presented it. So, so I haven't listened to the audiobook yet because I want to get the whole BBC experience before I go back to the audiobooks.
Right. And this is different because the audiobook is narrated word by word from the author, and this is a dramatization,
Yes.
right? So
So
it's not a word by word writing from the author.
yeah, so richer in many, many ways, especially in terms of the soundscape that they've created for it.
Absolutely. So, do you want to give us a little bit of a recap? Um,
Sure. Um, Last week we met our protagonist, Will. It's the eve of his 11th birthday, and he's come into his power as an old one. The old ones are immortal beings. There's six of them. Merlin was the first one, and Will turns out to be the youngest and the last one. And he's tasked with gathering six symbols with which to repel the powers the powers of darkness, of evil. And so this story is about his quest to gather the symbols. It turns out that uh, he's surrounded by old ones. They've been watching over him as he's grown up and come into his power. So they give him some guidance. The dark attacks the community by producing a snowstorm that just goes on and on and on. So Will, in the first part, he met the Dark Rider, the Rider of the Dark, who's represents the power of the dark. He met a tramp called the Walker, who is involved but not totally sure how. Turns out he has one of the signs for Will. There's the oldest walker. His name is Merriman Lion, shortens to Mary Lion, Merlin.
mm-hmm.
Uh, the neighbor farmer is an old one, and he gives Will his first warning. He says, "Tonight will be terrible, and tomorrow will be even worse." And that's what starts Will's adventure. So by the time we wound up last week, Will had covered a lot of ground, been through a lot of snow too. Um, he can travel through time. So it's usually Merriman that moves him back and forth through time. But in this alternate universe, he's met a blacksmith and a white mare who is capable of rescuing Will when necessary. But always there's this black rider um, surging forward, trying to grab Will, trying to get the signs that Will has. So I think when we left, it was Christmas morning. Will had received all the magic knowledge from the Book of Gramarye, thanks to Merlin's man Hawkins, who risked his life in order for Will to be able to read the Book of Gramarye. On Christmas morning, Will finally opens his mysterious present from his older brother, who's in the Navy, which was gifted to the brother in a very weird way by an old Jamaican gentleman who gave him strict directions to pass it on to Will. So Will has opened it. It's a papier-mâché mask of an antlered head from a Jamaican carnival parade in that style. And a stranger comes to visit them on Christmas Day. And I think that's about where we left off. Does that sound right, Amy?
Yeah, sounds pretty right to me. If somebody doesn't know what paper mache or papier mache,
right.
Maybe you can break that down for us if that's a new term for folks.
Yeah, it's a really cool way of sculpting stuff. And it's usually done with newspaper, or I have a friend who's a mask maker who says the best thing is paper shopping bags. And so you usually build a form. Sometimes it's just chicken wire, sometimes it's a blown up balloon, and you tear the paper into strips, and you soak it in a mixture of, when we were kids, we used flour and water, of that very simple kind of glue. My mask maker friend uses just ordinary white glue mixed with water. You saturate the paper in that, and you slowly lay the strips over the form, creating a layer, and you let that layer dry, and then you do another layer, and it really as many layers as you want to get the effect that you want. So piñatas are often made out of paper mache because you can break them open if you hit them.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it gives us an idea of the texture, and then oftentimes they're painted.
Oh, yes, painted. And sometimes to smooth the texture, the mask maker will sand them lightly, to get little lumps of glue off, or where an edge hasn't feathered into the other paper properly.
Okay. Where is there anything that you want to share with us before we start to hit part 2 of The Dark is Rising?
No, just that it's classic light against dark, good versus evil, old and new working together, or being bound together. So it's everything's pretty binary in this world.
Sometimes it's nice when that happens. Sometimes. Okay, I'm really excited about this. I'm going to remind folks that if you want to experience the binaural sound, which is kind of like a 3D sound, or maybe a sound that feels like it's moving around you, headphones are going to help, and you do need a desktop or a laptop computer, because the Zoom app may block that sound. But that doesn't mean you're gonna get bad sound, just means it'll be nice crisp sound. It just means it won't make you feel like there are people, that you're in the room with people, so to speak. So there you go. I've listened to it both ways, with the binaural sound and without my headphones, and I've enjoyed it both times very much. So I'm excited. And Ingrid, you're going to join us back after we listen to part 2 to talk with folks that may have any questions or need clarifications, perhaps.
Definitely.
Get lost through the story, because that can sometimes happen in these types of genres where they have,
I know, the time travel, like, right?
The Book of Grammary. What is that? How does that remind me what that is again? All of those things. So you're going to come back and join us afterwards. So friends, sit back and enjoy. This is about an hour and 40 minutes. And we'll talk to Ingrid when we get back. So this is part 2 of The Dark is Rising. Rick, go ahead and hit play.
The Dark is Rising, a drama by Susan Cooper for BBC World Service. Episode 7, The Besieging.
When the dark comes rising, 6 shall turn it back.
3 from the circle, 3 from the track.
Wood, bronze, iron, water, fire, stone.
5 will return, and 1 go alone.
Hawkins' betrayal has cracked open our protection, and the dark could slip in at any moment.
Will looked up and saw, framed in the sitting room doorway, the outline of the visitor's face.
The rider!
Saw the red-brown hair, the blue eyes, and he froze.
Will, come here a minute. Say hello to our guest, Mr. Matothin.
This Mr. Matothin, his father's friend from goodness knows where, was the rider from somewhere outside time. Quickly, Will hid the Jamaican carnival mask from Stephen under a cloth. As he turned back again,
This is Will, my youngest son.
the rider stared at Will in open, triumphant challenge, a small smile on his lips.
You!
Will stretched out his right hand with its fingers spread stiff towards his family and...
Time, stop!
He froze them out of all movement and they stood as waxworks round the room.
How dare you come here?
The two of them stood facing one another, the only living objects there.
How dare you enter our house at Christmas?
No one else moved, nor did the hands of the clock.
Get out!
Contain yourself. I can cross your threshold, my young friend, because I have been invited. Your father, in good faith, asked me to enter the door. He is the master of this house, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Then I shall use the Old One's words of destruction upon you.
Oh no, Will Stanton, that won't work. If you use weapons of that kind here, you'll blast your whole family out beyond time. Sweet Mary there, look, her pretty mouth half open. She'll be gone forever.
Leave her out of it.
You young fool. Do you think for all your gift of grammar you can control me? Keep your place, boy.
But you are afraid of my masters.
The dark is rising, young old one, and this time we do not propose that anything shall hinder its way.
Never.
Tell your masters, nothing shall stop us. Tell them all the things of power that they hope to possess we shall take from them. All the sides we shall break your circle before it can ever be joined, and none shall stop the dark from rising. Unfreeze.
Will, come here a minute and say hello to our guest, Mr. Matothin. This is Will, my youngest son, who's just turned 11.
How do you do, Mr. Mitothin?
Compliments of the season to you, Will Stanton.
Will you stay for a cup of tea or something, Mr. Matothin?
He can't.
Will?
Oh, I'm in a hurry. No, I thank you, Mrs. Stanton, but I'm on the way to spend the day with friends, and I must be off.
Oh, so where are you going, Mr. Matothin?
My, what lovely long hair you have, Mary. It's very pretty.
Oh.
You have a stray hair on your sleeve, Mary.
The rider reached out and delicately removed the hair from her sleeve.
Now, you'll have to excuse me. I have to go. Leave you all to your breakfasts, and Will in particular looks hungry to me.
So good of you to call, Mr. Matothin.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much for bringing, well, you know what?
Bye.
Yes, goodbye, Mr. Matothin.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye. Now, Alice, my love, happy Christmas.
Oh, Roger, my ring. And a new bracelet to match it. Oh, bless you. They're just beautiful. Is that what Mr. Matothin brought?
Oh, yes. That's why he was here. He's a dealer in diamonds, mostly. Strange chap, but pleasant, I think. Anyway, surely it's time for breakfast.
Yes, at last a cup of tea.
During breakfast, the snow began to fall again, gently but inexorably.
This snow's not right. There shouldn't be this much. It's something to do with the dark. I can feel it.
Extraordinary. I've never known it like this at Christmas in my lifetime.
Much more comes down today. There'll be transport problems all over the south.
Well, snow or no snow, I'm off to ring the church bells. Any of you heathen mob coming to church this morning with me?
I'll come.
Me too.
And me.
A good way to get out of the chores, Mary.
How dare you?
What?
None of that now. Go and get your coats on, one and all.
The snow was coming harder than ever as the Stantons walked to church, and the wind was picking up. It was now very, very cold. Will thrust his hands deep into the pockets of his sheepskin jacket, and his fingertips felt the rook's feather, forgotten since the dreadful night of Midwinter's Eve before his birthday.
Happy Christmas to you all. Yes. Well, come in. How good of you to make it. We're a few sheep short of the usual Christmas flock this year because of this beastly snow. It was nice when it started, wasn't it? But now, well, it doesn't show any sign of...
Towards the end of the service, as the good people of Huntercombe were booming out their favourite carol, Will suddenly felt bitterly cold. His head began to swim, and then he heard an unmistakable, unforgettable sound rising from somewhere outside the walls of the church.
The dark, here, besieging us in a church. Did no one else hear that? Feel it? Something's out there. Something that's come out of the dark is waiting beyond the church walls. And it's waiting for me, alone.
But no one else had noticed a thing. The service drew to its close, and the congregation began to file out of the church, heartened and warmed by the sing-song. He stood near the altar, waiting for Mary.
Splendid. Ah, well, have you got everything? And beautiful singing as usual. Here's Mary. Such a delight.
His neck prickling as though with the electricity that hangs oppressive and menacing in the air before a giant storm. It was everywhere now.
Will? Will? Is something wrong?
No, that is, no.
And Will could sense the power of the dark building.
I can do nothing against it.
So strong.
How do I get Mary and Mr. Beaumont safely out of the church before I leave?
The iron sign at his belt burned so cold he could feel it through his clothes.
They mustn't get hurt by whatever happens when I leave.
And then Will saw them. The church was not empty of congregation after all, for down by the little 12th century font were gathered
Farmer Dawson, John Smith.
old ones of the circle, waiting for him to support him against whatever lurked outside. But as the vicar and Mary walked through the nave to the door, Will suddenly saw both of them pause.
What is that?
And their heads went up like the heads of wild deer on the alert.
Rector, what on earth is that?
Nothing on earth, I think. God forgive me.
Rector, what do you mean?
It's glowing. Quick, get away from the east window for the... Oh no.
What is
Now it's to the west. Wait, it's surrounding us.
I don't know where they're going. What's happening? Oh God, help us. What is this?
Don't worry, dear Mary.
I can't believe this is...
Quiet, Mary.
Quiet, Rector. It's surrounding the whole church.
Easy now.
It's building. It's building in intensity. My God. What is this? What is this?
Poor brave fellow. This battle is not for his fighting. He's bound to think so, of course, being in his church.
Come here, Will. Quick.
You'll be all right, sir.
We must do something to protect these two, Will. Their minds will bend. The pressure of the dark will send them mad. You have the power, Will. The rest of us do not.
So Will made the minds of his sister and the rector safe behind a barrier that no power of any kind could break through. Their eyes closed gently, as if they had gone quietly to sleep.
All right. They're safe. Now, move with me to the doorway. John, Will, that's it. Come on, link hands. Let's get over to the entrance. There we are.
Well.
We can protect them against the dark in here. Now, link hands.
Stand firm, Will. See? The ropes cannot reach us as long as we stand together.
All the strength of the circle will hold this firm, Will.
We will be able to hold it. Now how can we drive it back?
Just keep...
He realized again helplessly that to be an old one was to be very old before the proper time. The fear he felt this time as adult, made of experience and imagination and care for others, and it was the worst of all. Then he heard in his mind a voice that was both his and more than his.
Remember, you are the sign seeker, Will.
You have 3 of the signs, half of the circle of the things of power. Use them.
My belt! I have to undo my belt. Free the signs.
No, Will, no!
Let go of my hands, John. Farmer Dawson.
What do you need?
I must free the signs.
Careful, Will. Dad knows what he's doing. That's it, Will. That's it.
Okay.
Hold him up. Hold him up. Clear. That's it.
Slowed by the sheer force of malice moving as if in tar, Will unclasped his belt with its 3 signs. He took from his pocket the rook's feather and wove it into the centre sign, stepped into the church porch, and held up the belt and the signs.
That's it. Look at them go. A full circle will do a real job, but half a circle can do quite a lot, eh, Will?
Wait. Don't move.
More trouble?
No. The signs. Look at them, they're glowing. Brighter and brighter from within.
Look up there. That light blazing from that cleft in the wall there, up at the top of the porch.
Help me up, John. Farmer Dawson.
They all saw the light was coming from something very small embedded on its side in the church wall.
What can you see, Will?
He went forward and pulled it easily from the stucco.
Flint. A circle of flint, quartered by a cross.
This sign is stone. We have the 4th sign.
Bring me down. Yeah.
Thread it safe on your belt now, Will. Fasten your belt safe around you. Good. Now, come on, boys. We must waken your sister, Will, and the rector. Over here, come on.
Mr. Beaumont, Mary, wake. Wake now.
Valley of Death.
Will, what happened?
It has gone. Whatever malign influence it was.
Mary and the rector were now looking at Will with a kind
Will?
of fearful remoteness.
I have the feeling that you fought it back. I'm not sure whether you should be ordained or exorcised.
Will.
A look that bit into him with the pain of a whiplash. It was more than he could stand.
I feel extremely disturbed. What has been happening here? There's something you need to
Mr.
tell
Beaumont, Mary,
Young man.
you will forget.
Young man.
Forget.
But I'm so glad that you could all be here for today's service. Everybody, happy Christmas. And Mary, don't forget that message to your father, and also to Paul. I would love to talk about Bach.
Oh, yes, he would love that. Thank you. Come on, Will, we better go. I think Mum's
Out they went into the white world where the snow lay mounded over the invisible tombstones and the white fields, and then, just as they rounded the corner of the path to the lynch gate, a rook landed in the trampled snow ahead of them, looked at Will, walked a few paces, flew up onto the churchyard fence and looked at Will again.
What do you want? All right, bird.
The rook wished him to follow. But at that moment he could not tell if the bird was being used by the light or by the dark.
One quick look. I'm coming. I'm here.
Will followed him through the gate and stiffened as he reached the corner.
Mary, Rector, come quick. There's a man in the snow. He's unconscious, I think.
Man in the snow? Oh, make space there. Check his pulse. He's alive, thank God, but very cold. We need to get him inside.
Rector, why don't we take him to our house? It's only round the corner and it's warm.
A wonderful idea. Your mother's a Samaritan, I know. I'll call Dr. Armstrong. But here, let's turn him over, get an arm under his...
As Mr. Beaumont turned the man's body, Will saw his face for the first time.
Mary, it's the walker.
Who?
Mary, we can't take him home. Not the walker. He'll bring back the...
The walker? Well, who is the walker?
Oh, of course. You can't remember, can you?
Will, what can't I remember? What are you talking about?
Now, don't worry, Will. Your mother won't mind. poor man in extremis. Now,
And together the rector, Will and Mary dragged the walker to the church gate like a muffled heap of ancient clothes, propped him atop the rector's motorbike like a makeshift wheelbarrow, and slowly, half riding, half pushing, that strange little group made its way through the fast-falling, deep-drifting snow to the Stantons' house. Will glanced behind himself once or twice, but the rook was nowhere to be seen. Episode 8, The Coming of the Cold. As they pulled the old man off Mr. Beaumont's motorcycle and into the big house, the smell was so acrid they at once ran him a bath. Will sat at the table. The walker. Why was he here?
What do you want?
There had to be some meaning behind it. Perhaps he had simply been hovering for his own reasons and been blasted by the attack of the dark on the church. But if so, why had the rook, an agent of the dark, brought Will to save him from freezing to death?
Poor man in extremis.
Who was the walker anyway?
He's alive, thank God, but very cold. We need to get him inside.
Why could all the powers of Gramry tell him nothing about the old man at all?
Record amounts of snow for this time of year have caused all trains to be cancelled by British Rail. The record snowfall has caused power outages across the country, leaving many without lighting or heating. The government has asked that if you have vulnerable neighbours, you check on their welfare as temperatures continue to drop.
Oh, dear.
Meteorologists are baffled about where this sudden cold front has come from, having previously predicted a relative...
Happy Christmas, world!
Oh, cheer up, Will. It's bound to stop soon. You'll be tobogganing on this in a couple of days.
I really wish it would stop. It's horrible the way it just goes on and on. I hate it. And it's broken a window at the back of the house.
What? How?
I guess the drift just pushed it. Like a burglar.
The dark shadow is spreading.
How's our patient doing anyway? I heard him muttering this morning. Weird talk. Language from another planet. Maybe he's from Mars.
I wish he was. Then we could send him back.
Will, enough of that. He's our guest, and he's poorly. Take him up his breakfast, please.
Okay. Would you like some breakfast? Brought honey and bread and a glass of milk.
Hungry.
He sat up greedily in bed, took his breakfast and did not say another word until he'd wolfed the lot.
Still coming down out there? Is it still snowing?
What were you doing out in the snow by the church?
Nothing. I don't remember. Hit my head, didn't I?
Do you remember when I found you?
No.
Do you know who I am?
No.
Well, let me take your tray.
No! Get away! You take them away.
Signs. You saw the 4 signs on my belt. Well, now you know who I am, Walker.
They burn! Oh, they burn, please! Get him out of here!
The walker lay in his room muttering and refusing to eat anything. Will was growing increasingly desperate as the cold tightened. He felt that if he did not get out of the house soon, he would find the dark had boxed him in forever.
The Great Freeze has now been declared a national emergency by the UK government. Food stocks are expected to be affected.
Well, sugar, there's nothing we can do except hunker down, wait for the snow to stop.
Early to bed each night, save fire and fuel, and then we can all have a lie-in, stay nice and warm in bed.
That's right, yes. It'll pass. It must pass.
Roger.
Huh?
We've run out of flour, we've run out of sugar.
Oh, goodness.
There isn't even any tin milk left.
Oh.
I know we're not supposed to leave the house except in emergencies, but...
Well, this is an emergency.
Well, yes.
Right. I'll get to the... Boys, come and give me a hand clearing the path. Come on.
It took the boys and their father 2 hours to shovel a way through the snow in their own garden to reach the road.
It's not just me at risk now. So many people are threatened by this cold. The very young, the very old, the weak, the ill.
When they finally reached the village shop, they found Mrs. Pettigrew, the shopkeeper, in a dither of nerves.
Have you got any flowers, Miss Pettigrew?
Oh, Mr. Stanton, young Will, it's this terrible snow. Oh, I'm so frightened, I don't know. I have these dreams that we're cut off and nobody knows where we are.
One and all.
Good afternoon. Mr. Stanton, Will, do you know Mr. Lyon? He's at the manor.
How do you do? Butler to Miss Graythorne. I have some news for you, Mrs. Pettigrew. We've heard a government announcement over the local radio. There's to be a fuel and food drop from the air into the manor grounds. Miss Graythorne is asking if everyone in the village would like to move into the manor for the duration of this emergency.
Oh, yes.
It will be crowded, of course, but warm, even comforting, perhaps. The radio does say the storm will grow very much worse this evening.
Will turned to look out of the window, and he caught a glimpse of something moving outside.
The rider!
He saw it clearly only for a second as the figure on its great black horse passed along the road.
Merriman, the rider was here.
Get the walker to the manor if you can. Quickly, or he will stop you from getting out yourself.
Oh, that's a good idea, yes.
Would you like help with telling people to
Can we
gather
go
in
to
the
the
manor?
manor, please, Dad? I'm so tired of the cold at home.
Oh, no, I don't think that'd be necessary, Will. We're more than capable of looking after ourselves. There'll be pressure on space.
But Dad, the walker... I mean, the old man. He's getting no better, is he? And he still hasn't seen a doctor.
Ah. Well, as it happens, we are expecting Dr. Armstrong at the manor this afternoon. She's probably on her way there just now.
Well, I suppose at least the old man might be better off with the doctor able to watch over him. We could bring him over.
Good. We will see you and your guest at the manor later.
The sky hung grey and heavy, waiting to snow as they left for the manor with the walker later that afternoon. They set off, heaving the toboggan, with the walker strapped to it, so trussed in blankets that he was invisible, a thick human sausage. It took Will, his brother Paul, and their father almost half an hour to reach the manor instead of the usual 10 minutes.
Welcome!
Evening. We shan't stay. We're fine at home, but here's the old man we mentioned who needs a doctor. We hopped out before the storm broke.
Well, it's rising already. Let us bring him in. Come on.
Now then, Mr. Lyon. Another patient for me.
Yes.
What's all this about then, eh?
Well, shock, perhaps.
We found him unconscious in the snow a few days ago. We thought he was recovering, but now...
Leave him to me, everyone. I've got a broken leg, 2 sprained ankles, so he'll certainly provide some variety. All right, old friend.
The snow's really coming down now. My wife will be worrying. The boys and I must go.
If you go now, I think you will leave but not arrive.
The dark is rising, you see.
You're very poetic all of a sudden, Will. All right. Well, we'll wait a while. I could do with a breather, and good to say hello to Miss Graythorne. Where is she, Lion?
She's by the great fire. Come with me.
Merriman led the way into the crowd. It was the oddest gathering Will had ever seen. Suddenly half the village was living in close intimacy, a tiny colony of beds and suitcases and blankets. And there by the fire, amongst them all, was Miss Graythorne, presiding over the gathering.
There you are. Evening, Mr. Stanton. Young Will Stanton.
Good evening, Miss Graythorne.
What do you think of all this, eh? Quite a lark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look into the fire, Will. For the length of time it takes you to trace the shape of each of the great signs you carry on your belt with the fingers of your right hand. Look into the fire. Make it your friend. Do not look away for all that time.
Fire, shapeshifter. I am an old one, and I have seen you in many guises, many forms. There's the red fire in the King's Hall, the sign of iron. There's a blue fire dancing over the marshes, the sign of bronze. There's yellow fire lighted high on the tops of Beacon Hills. There's sun, there's stars, there's volcano, the sign of stone.
And when Will looked up from the fire, he saw that the great hall at Greythorn Manor was empty.
The village is all gone.
And the walls lit by candles, hung with tapestries, and that sitting in 2 heavy carved chairs, one on either side of the fireplace.
Merriman.
Yes, Will.
And, oh, my lady, you are returned.
Yes, I am here.
Oh, madam, I am so sorry for breaking the circle that first time. Are you well now?
Everything is well. And will be if we can win this last battle for the signs.
What must I do?
Break the power of the cold. Stop the snow and the cold and the frost. Release this country from the hold of the dark. All with the next of the circle, the sign of fire.
But I haven't got it. I don't know how.
One sign of fire you have with you already.
Do I? But where?
In good time you will discover it, Will. The other sign of fire waits, and in its winning you will break the cold. But before that, our own circle of flame must be completed, and to do that you must take the power away from the dark.
There on the table, Will.
Yes?
The great wrought iron candelabra. Look at its shape.
A circle quartered by a cross.
9 of its sockets stand empty, Will. The candles that form the cross must be found and lit.
And Will looked at the brilliant ring of candle flames, and the 9 empty sockets held his eyes. And as he looked, he felt a strange, jolting sensation, as if the whole world had shuddered. He looked up.
Back again, in my present. We were gone so briefly.
Would you like...
With the doctor gazing at him.
Well, Mr. Do what I said. You feeling all right, young man?
Oh, yes, fine. Sorry, what did you say?
I was saying that your old tramp friend is saying he won't cooperate unless he sees you. Or rather, sees the 7th son, as he so lyrically puts it. I can't imagine how he knows that. Your father, a 7th son too, of course.
Dad, you're a 7th son?
Certainly. Half the family was killed in the last war, but there were 12 of us once. Proper tribe it was. Yes, you're the 7th son of a 7th son, Will.
Anyway, follow me to the sick bay. I think you're up to see me, old man.
Bring me the 7th son. Look, that's all I want to say. Go away, Doctor. Leave me with the 7th son.
Oh, charming, if you don't mind. Well, I'll be over here if you need me, Will.
Come on. Here. You listen to me, boy. You can't keep me here. The rider will come for me.
You were scared stiff of the rider once. I saw you. Have you forgotten that?
I forget nothing. That fear is gone. It went when the sign left me. Now, here. Now, you let me get out to my people.
Your people? Your people didn't mind leaving you to die in the snow.
No.
Anyway, you can hardly expect Dr. Armstrong to let you go out in the middle of a storm.
Well then, the rider will come. The rider will come. The rider will come.
What's going on here? Better leave us, Will. Go back into the hall. You've got father's right. I think he's a bit cracked.
Take care, Will.
All right, old fellow. Come along.
It is true. The rider will come for him. That is why I had you bring him here, to a place strengthened by time. The rider would have to come to your own house otherwise. And all that comes with the rider, too.
Now, young Will Stanton.
Yes?
Come over here.
Yes, Miss Graythorne.
Your brother Paul has had a most wonderful idea.
Have I? Oh, yes, I have.
We thought we'd have a kind of concert until the wind drops.
Good idea.
Everyone doing a little bit. Miss Bell to recite a poem.
Oh, yes.
Yes, well, later, yes. And old Mr. Dewhurst on the guitar. Your brother on the flute, of course. Lyons has brought out that special old flute of mine that you like so much, Paul.
Really?
I thought, Will, that perhaps you would begin, and if you were just to start singing anything you like, then gradually people would stop to listen. That's much better than me ringing a bell and saying, we will all now have a concert. Don't you agree?
I suppose so, yes. There is one song I could sing. It's rather sad, though.
No, I'm sure it'll be marvellous.
And as the wind moaned outside the window panes, Will began to sing. White in the moon, the long road lies. The moon stands blank above. White in the moon, the long road lies, that leads me from my love. The talking around him had fallen away into silence, and all the faces were turned in his direction. Farmer Dawson, John Smith, and his wife, all of them, old ones, ready again to make their circle if needs be. And then, with a shock, there was the walker, wrapped in a blanket like a cloak, standing in the doorway of his little sick room, listening. All guile and terror were gone from his face now. There was only sadness on it, and hopeless longing, and a glint of tears in his eyes. It was the face of a man shown something immensely precious that he has lost forever. As the gentleness of Paul's flute filled the room, Will felt a sudden lurch of fear. His hair prickled, and he knew that somebody was coming near, wishing ill to the manor and all inside it, and most of all, to Will himself.
You have no idea what's coming your way. Something worse than you could ever imagine. You'll see. You'll see. Oh, you think you're safe, eh? Well, you're not. You're not safe.
Episode 9, The Hawk in the Dark. A thunderous knocking came from the front door of the manor house, louder even than the screech of the blizzard. Across the room the walker jumped, his face twisted tight with waiting. Paul played on his flute, unhearing. Again the crashing knock, and Will understood this noise was not for the ears of Paul and the villagers sheltering from the winter storm there in Miss Greythorn's manor. It was he who was called, who was bound to answer to something or somebody who wished him ill.
When the dark comes rising, 6 shall turn it back, free from the circle, free from the trap. Wood, bronze and iron, water, fire and stone. 5 will return, 1 go alone.
Will walked through the unheeding people to the front door, took hold of its iron handle and...
Open there!
Out of the darkness, the great black horse of the rider reared up high over Will's head, hooves flailing, eyes rolling white. But as Will instinctively threw up one arm in self-defense, the black stallion screamed, fell back, and rider and horse disappeared into the dark.
But why did the rider flee?
One sign of fire you have with you already.
What?
Slowly he brought down his arm, still crooked defensively up over his head, and saw something he had totally forgotten.
The underside of your forearm, Will. The sign of iron burned you when we first met the dark together.
Well, that's my mum. I'm coming, Mum.
So as you threw up your arm when the rider reared at the door, you showed him the scar of that sign. And he could not bear it.
One sign of fire has kept the dark at bay.
Perhaps that sign had driven out the strongest attack of the dark, but then Will looked across the tranquil crowd, still listening to Paul play, and he saw
the Walker
standing tall, eyes bright, and he knew that he had been tricked, that in opening the door to the dark, he had allowed in a power that had strengthened the Walker, and the Walker had been waiting for. The summons to the dark from the Walker rang out, but in Miss Greythorn's hall, no one could see or hear his incantations. All was proceeding as before. Friends and family began fading away from Will, changing, vanishing, and only the Walker remained clear and present as before. But then...
Farmer Dawson.
Yes. Have no fear, Will.
Farmer Dawson stepped easily out of his body and came towards Will, leaving his other self to fade as part of the present, followed by...
John Smith.
We are here with you, Will.
All the old ones, able to move in and out of time, doubled themselves to group round him in the centre of the ladies' hall.
Us two?
We will stand with you, Will.
You will.
All of us.
We will.
Back to back.
Facing outwards.
Together. The corners of a square. Here.
Here.
Here. And here.
And all around the hall, the fires and the flames of the dark hissed and danced, white and blue and black only in colour, and the 9 tallest flames stood up like trees of terrible shadow. And then Will saw...
Merriman!
Merriman's hard eyes were not for Will, but for the Walker. The Walker shrank back a little, and suddenly, through the mixture of longing and fear in his eyes, suddenly Will knew him. The Walker was Hawkin.
Hawkin? Hawkin. My liege man, my son. There is still time to come home. Now. Hawkin. Every man has a last choice, a chance of forgiveness. It is not too late. Turn, come to the light. Hawkin, liege man, turn away from the dark. You must try and remember there was love and trust between us once.
You made me risk my life for a book. for a book. And then, because I looked at kinder masters, you sent me back to my own time, but not as I had been before. You changed me from a man into a creature, always running, always searching, always hunted. You took away my right to sink to sleep in death. You made me carry the sign through 600 years until this age.
I tell you, you may come home, Hawkins.
You, Will Stanton, old one.
Yes, Walker?
You, boy. It is all through you, this turning in time that took away my good life as a man. It was all on your account. For your damned gift of gramarye, I lost everything I had ever loved.
Walker.
Hawkin, now. Now. It is the last chance, and you may turn to the light and be as you were. I pray you, my son.
No.
My son.
No. You risked my life for the book. You made me carry the sign. You never let me die. Now it is your turn.
Stop! In the name of the Circle of Signs, I command you to leave this house.
Masters of the Dark, I bring you in. I found better masters than you. Masters of the Dark, I bring you in.
And the 9 flames moved in closer from the walls to the center of the room. approaching Will and the outward-facing Old Ones, chilling them to their hearts.
Your circle is not complete, man. And has not that force. And your liege man has called us into this house as he did before and can again. Our liege man, my lord. The hawk is in the dark.
I am here.
Merriman, I'm so cold. These fires, these candles. That is what is bringing in the deep cold.
Even as he thought this, his own century began to fade back in around them. Friends, family, villagers, all reappearing.
It is the cold of the dark.
Hawking has let them in, as he did in his first betrayal, and we cannot prevent that. Our only hope is what it was at the beginning. You see, he is mortal. Hawking is no more than a man, and so he is vulnerable. But when the spells of deep cold are made, Will, there is little that can be done against them.
And they were back once more in the hall of Miss Greythorn's manor. But the cold was there too.
Miss Greythorn, there's not much we can do to warm things up. All the electric power lines and the telephone are dead. But I have had all the house blankets and the quilts brought out.
Oh, good.
The fire runs short of wood, but at least it still burns.
Electricity, Bah! I always knew the old house didn't approve. Good thing we kept the old gas stoves, eh, Lion?
Oh, indeed, madam. I'm having more wood brought out now. Stand back.
No! Fire's gone out!
No, down the chimney!
Is that the fire almost to death?
Right, we need buckets and shovels, quickly!
Quick!
Oh, no!
Will rushed out of the door at the far end of the hall, but as he passed the opening, a ragged figure leapt at him and seized his ankle.
No, slow down, old one. Last of the old ones. You know what's going to happen to you? The cold's coming in, and the dark will freeze you cold and stiff.
Let's go!
And you know who'll take the little signs, old one? I shall. The poor walker. I'll wear them. They're promised to me by the dark as reward for my services. I shall be the sign seeker. I shall.
All right, Doctor, that's quite enough of that.
It's all right, Will, we go.
You're not going anywhere, old man. Madam Dawson.
Get off me, get off me.
Of all the times to run berserk, this chap is a danger to himself and the community.
Come on, you.
If only you knew what sort of danger he is.
He must be the only warm object in the country. I'm going to put him to sleep for a while. It will ease his suffering and ours. So keep him there, John, while I go and get my bag.
Come here, you. Easy now. Easy.
The 9 great ice candles. They're growing clearer.
Yes.
And now Dr. Armstrong was coming back towards the sick room with her black bag. And Will realised...
There is a way, perhaps, of stopping the dark before the cold kills us all.
Yes, Will. One person, unwitting, giving help to another.
Right, hold him still, John. You too, Will. This is for his own good.
The doctor slipped a needle deftly in and out of the walker's arm before the old man knew what she was doing.
Right there. That'll help you. You have a deep sleep.
Freeze, you'll freeze, and the signs will be mine, whatever you try.
And as the mind of the walker closed, the dark's way into the house was closed too.
All right, everyone. You can relax. Everything's under control. Oof.
Well done, Doctor.
Will's head whirled. Miss Greythorn's manor with its throng of familiar faces faded once more, and he was back in time once again, in that great hall of the earlier age with the other old ones, and beside the hearth, there was the lady.
Oh, lady, madam, we have returned. Yes, Will, and you have done so very well. Now it is clear what is to be done.
The 9 great ice candles of the dark, the candles of winter. Take them before they fade.
And the old ones scattered hastily into the hall, where the strange blue-white cylinders still burned ghostly with their dead, cold flames. Will leapt hastily onto a chair to seize the last. It was cold and smooth and heavy to his touch.
Like ice that does not melt.
Bearing the winter candles of the dark, the old ones advanced towards the great quartered iron circle of holders on the massive wooden table, and one by one they placed the candles into 8 of the 9 sockets.
Now, Will Stanton, our candles are in place.
You must complete the sign of fire.
Will reached through to fit his candle into the last holder in the very center of the pattern.
There is the power seized from the dark, Will Stanton. By cold magic, they called up the candles of winter for destruction. But now that we have seized them for the light, the candles become stronger and able to bring you the sign of fire. See?
The flame of the candle that Will had placed began to grow. Its flame stood high above the rest. It became yellow, orange, red. It grew into a curved, strange flower of flame, and then each petal opened and melted away into the air, leaving only a glowing, round seed pod, which broke open silently to reveal a golden red circle of a shape they all knew.
Take it, Will.
I'm ready.
But he was not, for as he put out his hand, the great slender flower stalk bent over towards him, and the golden circle fell into it, and he staggered at the surge of invisible power that struck him.
This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Like fire made metal. And there are words on it. No, in it. Light, neck, head, Gwirkan.
The light ordered that I should be made.
Let the sign bring light.
The sound of the dark's thwarted fury beat in his ears, and suddenly time moved forward, and Will was back again in Miss Greythorn's hall, and all around him were friends and family and villagers, their faces now turned wonderingly to the roof and the rumbling roar beyond.
What is that? Thunder? Rain! It's rain!
Excellent, excellent. The thaw's here at long last. Rain will melt this snow in no time.
Will, am I going loopy, or does this perishing room suddenly feel warmer?
No, yes, it's warmer. It's warmer.
Funny. It was so hideously cold for a while. I suppose they've got the central heating going again.
No. They haven't given up. Of course the dark has not given up.
Will, Paul, come quickly, it's your brother James.
Get Dad now. And the doctor. Mum's had an accident. She fell down the stairs. She's still unconscious. And we think she's got a broken leg.
No! Okay, wait there, Will. Quick, Dad?
Did they do that? Did they? The lady said...
It's possible. They cannot harm you, true, and they cannot destroy mortals. But they can encourage men's own instincts to do them harm. Or bring an unexpected clap of thunder when someone is standing at the top of a flight of stairs.
I'm sorry, Dad, I didn't know what else to do.
Will, come with me, Paul and James. Home as fast as we can. Run! Now!
Oh, the dark is rising. Oh, the dark is rising. Oh, the dark is rising. Oh, the dark is rising.
Episode 10, The King of Fire and Water. Will was running with his brothers and his father across the melting snow, and as he ran, he remembered a hand on his shoulder and saw Merriman beside him, and knew from the concern in Merriman's eyes that in some way this was the next attack of the dark. An hour later, after the doctor had safely arrived and had examined his mother in the living room, James drew aside his brothers Will and Paul.
I'm so worried. Why? What's happened? Mary's disappeared.
Disappeared how?
I told her not to go. Honestly, I did. I didn't think she would. I thought she'd be too scared.
Go where?
Out to the manor. She said you'd both been gone far too long, and someone ought to go and bring you back from Miss Graythorne's. So I went out of the room to make up a fire to keep Mum warm, and when I came back, Mary was gone.
The Dark's taken her. They've got her, and they'll use her as bait for me.
Will and I will go straight back out and find her. Come on, we're both still dressed for it.
Good idea.
Go.
Mary!
Mary!
Mary, where are you?
Up the road they went, Will and Paul peering and anxious now.
Oh, this rain is ridiculous. Just suddenly out of all this snow.
They've taken Mary. We'd have seen her on the way back from the manor otherwise. The Dark's taken her.
Oh, let's go this way, Will.
Where is she?
Suddenly, through the rain, a flurry of black feathers swooped low past their heads.
Get over to the other side of the lane.
Oh, take cover.
They're herding us. The rooks are driving us like sheep to where they want us to go.
Paul! No! Paul!
Don't panic, don't panic. It's good that Paul's gone. This is no matter for ordinary human beings. The Dark has Mary, and only I can get her back.
Will calmly unbuckled his belt now with the 5 signs on it and strapped it round his right wrist.
Light. First I need light.
And from the signs a steady path of light beamed out, and what it showed was that the road was fast becoming a river.
How can the water have risen so fast?
Suddenly, by the light of the signs, Will saw Polly, the great shire horse from Dawson's farm, and, perched high on the back of the horse,
John Smith!
Over here, Will. Through the water before it rises too fast. We have work to do. Come on.
Oh, John, I'm so glad to see you.
Come by, boy. Easy now, boy. Easy. There. That's right. Now, up we come, Will. Now, you sit in front of me now. Polly's shoulders have taken greater weight than you.
John, the light of the signs, it keeps pointing in one direction, no matter how much I turn my arm.
That's right, Will. It knows the way. We follow the light.
But where are we going?
We are going to raise the hunt, Will Stanton.
What hunt? John, I must find Mary. They've got Mary, the Dark, somewhere. And I've lost sight of Paul.
I've seen Paul. He's safe on his way home now. Mary you will find in due course.
But where? Is she safe?
It is time for the hunter, Will. The white horse must come to the hunter, and you must take her there. This is the ordering of things.
John, the light from the signs is dimming. It's fading.
That's as it should be, Will. Whoa there, Polly. Whoa. Now, this is where I leave you, Will.
No, please.
All will be well. One instruction, Will. You are to take the white horse to the hunter. And remember what you know already. The moving water is free of magic. Now, down you get.
Yeah.
Polly was so high from the ground that Will fell into the water like a brick, yet he felt no cold, even though the rain beat at him.
I go to gather the hunt, Will.
He clambered up the snowbank beside the river road.
But who is the hunter? And where is the white horse?
A white shape leapt out of the dark line of trees on the far side of the stream, and in a spray of wet snow, the great white mare of the light was standing before Will, tall as a tree.
Here you go. Will you carry me? As you did before.
He made sure the signs were secure on his belt before he reached up to wind his fingers into the white mane. And suddenly, he was there, up on the back of the mare, high among the willow trees.
On! On to find the hunter! On! On! Faster, girl! Faster! Woohoo! Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
The white horse
Come
leapt
on.
higher and higher.
Yeah.
Will clung tighter as they rose over hedges, roads, walls, all now emerging from the melting snow.
Whoa, easy!
But suddenly they came upon an utter fury of water which Will knew must be the River Thames, transformed by the sudden flood.
The river! It's a wild, living creature.
The white mare seemed to pause irresolutely on the edge of this wild, cold water, and then surging forward, it leapt. Will looked below him and saw an island where he knew instinctively that he would now meet great danger.
Whoa!
And there they landed. And in the middle of the island, right at its center, the high point, was a single old beech tree with 4 streams somehow running down from its foot. As he gazed at this sight, Will froze. Next to the trunk of the great beech,
Hawkins!
Your sister Mary is here.
Will scrambled down from the white mare's neck, glanced round. The island was empty.
No, she isn't.
She is here, in this place. And the bargain my lord the rider will make with you is simple. Your sister for the signs.
The dark had brought him here, his face lined and battered beneath wispy strands of grey hair.
Give them to you. To a worm who crawled to the other side. Never!
I am no longer the wandering walker, and you would do well to deal with me. If not, you may call up more than you wish to see.
You are a creature of the dark. You chose betrayal. You are nothing. I will not deal with you.
Master? Master? Master!
Within seconds, something was coming. A column of black mist like a tornado whirling at enormous speed, and as it came closer, Will could not help backing away, every part of him shouting wordlessly in alarm.
Here is your sister, Will Stanton.
And without a flicker in his chill smile, the rider moved out of the black mist, and there, on his great black horse, sat Mary.
Hello, Will!
Hello, Mary. Are you all right?
Yes. Oh, I suppose you were looking for me. Sorry. I hope nobody got worried. Only went for a little ride, and then I bumped into Mr. Matothic. And I've had such a lovely ride.
Here's some sugar for the horse, Mary. I think he deserves it, don't you?
I do, thank you. What do you like?
I have an old one, bound by totem magic. A hair from the head makes an excellent totem, and Mary's hair is so golden, so beautiful.
Lovely long hair you have, Mary. Very pretty.
You cannot save her except by giving me the signs, Will Stanton. Look at her. She will do anything I suggest. She thinks it's a beautiful day. She thinks she's giving sugar to a horse. She will even jump, if I ask her, into the raging River Thames and drown.
He smiled at Will. Will stared back, hating him, and he looked at Mary's happy, sleep-waking face.
This is the time for your bargain, Will Stanton. Give me the signs.
Will felt something in him was dying as he breathed in.
No.
Astonishment was an emotion the Black Rider had forgotten long ago. The blue eyes stared at Will in total disbelief.
Do you know what I will do?
Yes, I know. But I will not give you the signs.
Very well.
Will clutched the signs, agonized.
Mary, I think you'd like a swim in the beautiful river, wouldn't you?
And with all his might summoned the power of the light.
Oh, yes, it's a beautiful day for a swim. Let's go for a dip together, Will. The water looks so lovely.
The Black Rider bent forward and held her over the flood.
Mary! Hold the light! Come to my aid!
A great bolt shot from the massed storm overhead, and a blazing white streak rushed over the island towards Mary, a cloaked figure crouching on its back. The horse seized her and whirled on into the dark clouds, Mary's blonde hair streaming out behind her. Will swung round, looked up fearfully for the Black Rider, but he was nowhere to be seen in the raging storm. And yards from Will, the cloaked figure who moments ago had been riding the white mare stood up and drew back his hood.
Merriman! The rider, Hawken, Mary, they've all gone.
The white horse has carried her away to safety. Mary is beyond harm now.
And the beech tree, it's blazing.
The lightning has struck it, Will. It has brought fire and change. Now see. It is not only the tree that is split and broken. The island itself is breaking open. It's sinking towards the river.
Will stared speechless. And the strangest thing of all, something was emerging out of the island as the land and snow fell away. Emerging from the ground where it had split in the island's center.
A stag. The head of a stag.
Golden antlers? No. A whole stag, all in gold, mounted on a slender prow of wood.
It's a ship.
It is a long ship, Will, rising from its burial beneath the island.
Will had never seen such a ship before. Oak timbers, no mast, but places for row upon row of oarsmen. A deck house in the middle, and inside that, beneath a canopy, lay a body.
A king. Is he a king?
Oh, yes, Will. He is a king. Now look closely.
The king was holding something in his hands, where they lay peacefully folded on his breast. An ornament, small and glittering. And as Will saw it, he stood still as marble, gripping the high oaken edge of the longship.
The sixth sign. It's the sixth sign, Merriman. The sign of water. The last of the circle.
Will scrambled over the side of the great ship, stood looking down, and reached reverently to take the sign. But first, he had to touch the hand of the dead king.
Do not fear him.
But he's dead. And his hands are so cold. Colder than any stone.
He has lain here in his burial ground for 1,500 years, waiting.
Yes. But it feels wrong to take something away from the dead.
It is the sign, and you are the sign seeker, and that is why he has appeared to us. Take it.
Will leaned across the bier and loosed the grip of the dead cold hands. And from somewhere far off, a murmur of his music whispered in his ears.
It was well done, Will.
This sign is beautiful. It's gleaming. Like mother of pearl. Like water.
Will turned and saw that Merriman was now astride the white mare who had returned. He was cloaked in blue, his bony face dark with strain, but delight gleamed in his eyes.
He is one of the oldest and the most powerful. Now you have it, the dark loses its power over Mary forever. The spell is dead. But come, mount. We must go.
Yeah.
Creaking and rattling, the longship tilted and then gave itself to the rush of the swollen Thames.
An English king of the Dark Ages. I think we will not use his name.
And Will had a last glimpse of the mask-like white face as the great ship moved away downstream.
When the Black Riders rode unhindered over our land, only the old ones and this king kept the light alive.
At that moment, a streak of blue light hurtled out of the east, not from the sky, but another place. A great rush of flame and burst over the prow.
Ah! Oh! No! Merriman! The dark has struck his ship!
Ah, they vent their spite because they know they are too late!
But the king, and all his beautiful things!
If the rider had paused for thought, Will, he would have known that his outburst of malice has done no more than create a right and proper ending for this great ship. See! Our king of the last sign sails magnificently now in fire and water to his long rest, down the greatest river of England, towards the sea. Come! We must lose no more time!
And the white mare wheeled them around from the river and rose into the air. For the great black tornado column of the dark had gathered again. It was following them now, and it was moving very fast.
The dark is rising. Oh, the dark is rising.
Episode 11, The Hunt Rides. And the white mare, skimming the foaming water, leapt westwards with desperate speed. Yet still Merriman urged her on, and Will knew why. For the great black tornado column of the dark had gathered again, even vaster than before, bridging earth and sky. It was following them, and it was moving very fast.
Merriman! The dark! The tornado! It's still there!
This is the peak of it all, Will. You have the 6 signs, but they are not yet joined. If the dark can take you now, they take all they need to rise to power.
On they galloped, past houses and shops, and unwitting people fighting the floods, across fields, through trees, and always the great black spinning column of the dark with the rider at its centre pursued them.
Look! It must be Windsor Castle! We're in the Great Park!
Will sensed now that the grey-massed sky was no longer empty of life, but peopled with creatures, neither of the dark nor of the light, clustering, separating, holding great power. And then, with swift, enchanted ease, they both slid to the ground. The mare bent her head to them, and Will laid his hand on her tough, smooth, white neck.
Look, Will, look. That tree. Do you see? That is Hearn's oak.
Yes, of course. The big oak tree in the Great Park. Where Hearn the Hunter is supposed to ride on the eve of 12th night.
I go to gather the hunt well.
Tonight, the wild hunt rides, for the first time in more than 1,000 years.
Winds were breaking the sky apart. A half-moon sailed high through the clouds, then vanished again. Lightning danced in 6 places at once.
Merriman! The dark's been stopped by something. It's circling, like it's looking for a way in.
An old way rings the great park, Will. The same ancient route that leads through Hunter's Cone. It will protect us, but only for a while.
Look, there! By the great oak tree. There's someone by it. A shadow the size of a man. The white horse must go to the hunter. Go, my friend, to the shadow beneath the tree. Go to Hearn the Hunter. He has immense power.
Will swung round, the moon sailed clear of cloud again, and he saw John Smith,
John!
astride the great Shire horse from Dawson's farm.
Where's Mary?
Your sister is safe at home, boy. She got lost, you know. Fell asleep in an old barn and had such a curious dream that she is already forgetting.
Oh, thank you, John. Thank you.
All goes well, John. Now give it to the boy.
With a quick, mirthless grin that seemed to mask great strain, the smith lowered the shadowed object he was carrying towards Will, who took hold of it and was surprised by its lightness.
The Jamaican carnival head.
And now you must take it to the hunter, young woman.
Give him the mask, Will Stanton. Give him the mask that has traveled so far through so many arms.
So many arms.
So many.
Holding the mask before him, Will walked firmly towards the deep shadow of the broad, spreading oak. The moon sailed out again suddenly from behind a cloud and dazzled Will briefly. And when he looked again, the white horse and its rider had moved out of the shadow. With difficulty, Will dragged his gaze up to look properly at the head, at the great horned mask that Hearn had put on.
The signs. Old One. Show me the signs.
Without taking his eyes from the towering figure, Will fumbled with his buckle and held them up high in the moonlight.
Here. 6 quartered circles.
The hunter looked at them, bent his head. When he raised it again, he began.
When the dark comes rising, 6 shall turn it back. 3 from the circle, 3 from the track. Wood, bronze, iron, water, fire, stone. 5 will return,
5
and
will
1
return,
go alone.
and 1 go alone.
Iron for the birthday.
Iron for the
Bronze
birthday.
carried long.
Bronze carried
Wood
long.
from the burning.
Wood from
Stone
the burning.
out of
Stone
song.
out of song.
Fire in
Fire
the
in
candle
the candle ring.
Water from
Water
the
from the
Thor.
Thor.
6
signs
signs
the
the
circle.
And the Grail gone before.
And the Grail gone before.
Where Merriman's face was marked with lines of sadness and anger, the hunters told instead of a pitiless impulse to revenge.
Fire on the mountain shall find the harp of gold, played to wake the sleepers, oldest of the old. Power from the Green Witch, lost beneath the sea. All shall find the light at last. Silver on the tree.
The yellow eyes looked at Will again, but they did not see him now. They had grown cold, abstracted, with a chill fire mounting in them.
Merriman, why does he look like that?
It is not cruelty.
It is not cruelty.
It is nature.
It is nature.
The nature of things, indifferent and inevitable.
Indifferent and inevitable. Everywhere.
Let it begin!
And from every shadow or tree or cloud, leaping round the ground and through the air, came an endless pack of huge white animals, ghostly in the half-light, sounding and belling.
Listen. The Yellhounds. The Yellhounds are running.
Gathering around Hearn on his horse, their red eyes in their white heads were
like flames,
and their red ears stood taut upright with a dreadful eagerness.
You would not wish to be hunted by such dogs, will you?
Suddenly Hans stiffened, his great horns now pointing as a hunting dog points. Just as Will brought the signs back down to safety towards his belt again, his arms seemed to freeze. Shutting out sky and earth and sound, the deadly spinning pillar came at Will, and Will alone, dreadful in its furious whirling energy, the dark came for Will.
I call upon you! I call upon the signs!
But as he called on every spell at his command, he knew he could feel his hands were powerless to move for the signs for help.
All one. No. It is finished. No. You have no more protection.
But into the dead, world-muffling dark enwrapping him came a sound. At the peak of their power now, in full cry, they came roaring out of the great dark thundercloud, riding on the storm, and at their head was Herne. At the sound of the wild hunt's hell-like thousand-tongued yelping, the dark flinched and swayed.
Merriman! The dark's been haunted! Its power is breaking!
High up in that abysmal dark cyclone, Will saw the rider spin his horse fiercely and seemed to cast something impatiently from his saddle, a small dark object that fell limp and loose to the ground and lay there like a discarded cloak.
They're nearly upon him! The wild hunt! They almost have the rider!
Oh, they are in full cry now, Will! They are in full cry! And the dark is put to flight.
He dropped something, Merriman. Did you see?
I saw.
Is it over?
More or less.
The
The dark is vanquished. In this encounter at least. You see, nothing may outface the wild hunt. Herne will hunt the dark to the very ends of the earth, where it must skulk now, awaiting its next chance. But for the next time...
We are made stronger by your completed quest, Will Stanton. By your having the sixth sign and the gift of gramarye, we are this much stronger and closer to gaining victory at the very end.
There is left only the joining of the signs. But before that, one small thing.
Will followed Merriman, puzzled as he strode towards the shadow of Herne's oak. And then he saw on the snow the crumpled cloak the Black Rider had let fall as he turned to flee.
No, not a cloak. A man.
Those who ride high with the Lord of the Dark must expect to fall. And men do not fall easily from such heights. I think his back is broken.
He threw me down. And you knew it would happen. Only my head. I feel my head because of the pain, but my arms, my legs, they're not there.
Merriman.
I am lost. I know it. Will you make me live on with the worst suffering of all to come? The last right of a man is to die. You prevented it all this time. You made me live on through the centuries when often I longed for death. And all for a betrayal that I fell into because I had not the wit of an old one.
You were Hawkin, my foster son and liege man, who betrayed me to the light. So you became the Walker, to walk the earth for as long as the light required it. But we have not kept you since then, my friend. Once the Walker's task was done, you were free. But you chose to listen to the promises of the dark. That freedom to choose is still yours. I did not take it away. I may not.
I may have rest. There can be an end and rest if I choose.
All your choices have been your own.
Hawkin then turned to Will, and the eyes that looked up at him were bright once more.
The lively eyes of the small, neat man in the green velvet coat.
Will, use the gift well, old one.
Hawkin looked back at Merriman, a long, unfathomable private look.
Master.
The lights went out behind the bright eyes, and there was no longer anyone there. Episode 12, The Joining of the Signs. In the low-roofed smithy, Will Stanton stood with his back to the entrance, staring into the fire.
Use the gift well, old one.
Orange and red and fierce yellow-white it burned as John Smith pushed at the long bellows arm. The fire lit Will's spirits, yet it did not properly light the room, for nothing that Will could see appeared solid. Only the fire seemed truly real. The rest, was it a mirage?
Does it remind you of anything, Will?
Yes. It's that half-world feeling again. The same as that day in the manor, when we were in two kinds of time at once.
It is just the same, and so we are.
But we're in the time of the smithy, Merriman. We went through the great doors again. We travelled back 6 centuries from my time.
Yes, well, we had 2 tasks to fulfill in this time. The first was to bring Hawkin's body back to his century.
He's at peace now, Merriman, isn't he?
If you were to visit the village churchyard, Will, in your time, you would find the crumbling grave of a man named Hawkin, buried in the 13th century, and laid there quietly ever since.
What's the second task, Merriman?
We are here for the joining of the signs, and that work must be done by John Wayland Smith, in this smithy, in this time. Step to the door of the smithy, Will, and listen.
Merriman, I can hear the river. But the river is miles away.
What we are hearing is not the Thames, Will, but the sound of the 20th century. It's the water running in your time down Huntercombe Lane from the melting of the snow.
I want to be home with my family. I want to be an 11-year-old boy again. In one time only.
Not long now, Will.
I'm almost ready.
Very well, then. Follow me to the road, Will.
Tall and imposing and utterly still, Merriman stood on the old way in his long blue cloak, the hood pushed back so that his thick white hair glinted like snow. And then the change began. Will's head began to spin. Was this real or imagined?
Everything's blurring, swimming together. The world's wavering, like a heat haze.
And the trembling world began to resolve itself into the outlines of visible things.
People! Or ghosts of people.
People everywhere, thronging the spaces between all the trees, filling the road and the whole open yard before the smithy.
So many of them, like an audience come to watch a play.
An endless variety of faces, smiling and somber, tall and short, and from every imaginable corner of the earth. And as he was looking, Will caught sight of an old man looking at him. An old man with dark, deep eyes and a gentle smile. And he knew instinctively who it was.
You! I know you. You're the one who gave Stephen the carnival mask that became Hearn's head.
Yes, Will Stanton. I am he. From every land, from every part of the world. Here we have come to witness the joining of the signs. Don't take fear, Will, for we are all your kin.
We are all your kin, from all across the earth, and every one of us linked
for the greatest purpose in the world.
Old ones. My people. My family.
Just then, out from the throng emerged a little procession of children in rough tunics and leggings, carrying on their shoulders a rough litter woven of branches and reeds with a bunch of holly at each corner.
Twice in the year, if it is a particular year, comes the hunting of the wren. Look there, on the litter coming up.
But Merriman.
Yes.
Yes, there she is.
For on the litter there was no wren, but instead another delicate form, fragile as a bird, with white hair, robed all in blue.
The lady.
One of her forms is that of the wren, Will. That bright and brave little bird who knows how to hide herself in plain sight. My lady.
Thank you, Merriman.
Moving towards Will, the lady took both his hands in hers.
Well done. It was very well done, Will Stanton. On oak and on iron, let the signs be joined.
Come, Will. Lay down your belt that has borne the signs through all their seeking.
One by one, John took the signs from Will's belt, and on his iron anvil with its oak foot, he first joined the signs with rings of gold.
The signs of fire and water in the center,
iron and bronze to the left side,
wood and stone to the right.
And then, to either end of the signs, he fastened a length of sturdy gold chain.
It is done. Take the circle of signs to the lady, Will Stanton.
Touching the joined signs, Will felt from them suddenly a strange, fierce sensation like an electric shock, a strong, arrogant reassurance of power.
What is the purpose of the power this holds, my lady?
It's for the future, Will. Don't you see? When the dark comes rising,
6 shall drive it back.
3
from the circle.
3 from the track.
wood,
Bronze.
Iron.
Water.
Fire. Stone.
5 will return and 1 go alone.
Sign Seeker, by your birth and your birthday, you came into your own.
And this circle of the Old One was completed.
For now and
forever.
The circle is yours to wear, Will. Come. Farewell, Will Stanton. Farewell until we meet again, as we shall. Farewell.
But now, Will was kneeling on cold, beaten snow, in a place he did not recognize on Huntercombe Lane. Bare trees on either side, the road empty, the brightness and celebration, the lady, all fled, leaving him alone.
No, 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 where are you? Old One's lady, where have you all gone?
It's time to go home, Will.
Merriman, you're still there.
I am.
Will looked back over his shoulder. Merriman gazed down, his dark eyes owlish. And then the knot of Will's emotions cracked and broke.
It was just now I'm here, and I want to be back there, and
Yes, I understand. You see, you belong in both worlds now.
Hey, Merriman, it's the manor. We're at the back of the manor.
Indeed. The tradesman's entrance, also used by butlers.
So are we standing where the old smithy used to be?
Yes. In the plans of the house, it's called Smith's Gate.
And Merriman, my mother, is she truly all right?
Of course she is.
And how have you stopped my family wondering where I've been?
You have spent the night at the manor, asleep. But these are small things. Come, old one. Remember yourself. You are no longer a small boy.
No. I know.
But sometimes you feel how very much more agreeable life would be if you were.
Sometimes, but not always.
The day grew brighter as they walked along Huntercombe Lane towards the Stantons' house. It was a morning full of promise, though the sun had not yet risen.
Merriman! Blue sky!
We've not seen that for many a day.
Well.
Good morning, both.
Morning, Mr. Lyon.
Hello, Dad.
Oh, Mr. Lyon, I'm so grateful to you for looking after him last night, not to mention bringing him home. Well, will you have some breakfast with us? A cup of tea?
No, thank you, but I should be getting back.
Will!
James!
Hey, Will! Was it fun at the manor? Did you sleep in a four-poster bed?
Well,
Will!
Mary! Oh, I am so relieved.
What are you relieved about?
Mary, what happened? Are you all right?
Will, what are you talking about? I had a super ride on John Smith's horse. You know Polly, one of Farmer Dawson's Shire horses. He picked me up in the lane after I'd gone out to look for you. I was quite safe on his back. He was so strong in the water and... Well, it seems like ages ago now. Not just last night.
But, wait, what about Mum?
She'll be fine, Will.
Yeah, it was only a sprain in the end, not a broken leg, the doctor said.
She has got to rest, though. She did hit her head.
And now Paul was running towards them, holding open a package that Merriman had been carrying since they left the manor.
Look, Miss Graythorne's given me the antique flute. I can't believe it. Just look at it.
She's given it to you.
Well, she referred to it as a permanent loan. We'll look after it. And this, the lady of the manor sent for you, Will Stanton.
He held out another package and Will opened it. His gaze flickered to Merriman and back down again, for inside, gleaming, thin with age, lay a horn.
A horn?
A hunting horn.
It looks very old.
It is. Extremely old.
Go on, Will. Blow it.
Yeah, we'll wake up the whole village.
No, I can't.
Why not?
I have to learn how.
Will you thank her for me very much, Mr. Lyon?
Yes, Mr. Lyon, thank her from me too.
I will. Well, goodbye, Mr. Stanton, Paul, James, Mary.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr.
Bye, Mr.
Goodbye.
Young.
And then Will's hand was in Merriman's strong grasp. A quick pressure and an intent look from his deep eyes.
Au revoir, Will Stanton.
His craggy, fierce, carved face softened for a moment. Then he raised his hand to them all and strode off down the lane.
Did you hear the wild geese last night, Will?
There must have been thousands of them.
My grazing eyes were both. We couldn't see them. There was just this gorgeous noise.
Like 100 doors creaking at once.
Then a lot of cackling from those daft rooks in the wood.
And then a long, long sort of crying noise across the sky. And high, very high up.
It was thrilling, wasn't it?
It was.
Yes. Must have been. You're not awake yet, are you?
But Will was no longer listening to his brothers and sisters, for in a snowdrift beside the lane he had spotted hoofprints, not in the shape of a horseshoe, but something else.
Circles quartered by a cross. The shoes John Wayland Smith put on the white mare. So long ago now.
The path of hoofprints led Will's eyes away down Huntercombe Lane to where he saw, shimmering into view,
The doors. The great doors that lead out of time. They're opening.
Mum! Hello? Mum, Will's home!
Oh, Alice, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm fine. A little bit sore, but I'm fine. Breakfast is here. I've kept it warm. Where's Will?
Oh, he's coming, don't worry.
Will clenched his fists as he listened, yearning towards the sweet beckoning sound that was the space between waking and dreaming, memory and imagining.
Merriman!
And out on the old way, Merriman passed through the open doors, and behind him the towering slabs of heavy carved oak swung slowly together until silently they shut. And then, in a great blaze of yellow-white light, the sun rose over Hunter's Combe and the valley of the River Thames.
Good morning, and a very happy new year from the BBC. And what a beautiful dawn it is to begin this new year of 1974. Bright sunshine at last.
As we welcome in 1982.
The military build-up has turned the Falklands
An 8-mile-long crude oil slick.
An end to the Berlin Wall.
These police officers charged with beating Rodney King were acquitted and
violence on a massive scale, Rwanda.
Some 4,000 tons of crude oil have leaked into the sea.
in the start of the new millennium. Our economy now slides into recession.
The Paris Agreement on climate change.
there's growing anger over how the
2020.
developed world isn't doing nearly enough.
And now, when the dark comes rising, who shall turn it back?
The dark is rising. Oh, the dark is rising.
In The Dark is Rising, a drama by Susan Cooper, Will Stanton was played by Noah Alexander. John Smith, Paul Stanton, and the Reverend Beaumont was Thomas Arnold. The bus conductor, Jamaican Old One, and James Stanton were played by Danny Bailey. Stephen Stanton was Simon Bubb. Mrs. Stanton, Mrs. Pettigrew, and Dr. Armstrong were played by Amanda Haddingley. The walker, and Hawkin, was Toby Jones, and the narrator was Simon McBurney. The rider, Mr. Matothin, Mr. Stanton, and Farmer Dawson were played by Tim McMullen. Merriman was Paul Rees. Maggie Barnes and Mary Stanton was Natasha Stone. The lady and Miss Greythorne was Harriet Walter, and Hearn was Miles Yekini. The chorister was Vinay Singh, and the radio announcer was Sam West. The soundscape is designed by Gareth Fry, and original songs are by Johnny Flynn, Louisa Gerstein, and Eloise Tunstall-Behrens. Music composed by Josh Sneesby. The book was adapted for audio by Robert McFarlane and Simon McBurney. The production is directed by Simon McBurney and produced by Catherine Bailey and Tim Bell. It is a Complicité and Catherine Bailey production for BBC World Service and is commissioned by Simon Pitts.
The dark is rising. Oh, the dark is rising.
right, friends, that was The Dark is Rising, the conclusion, part 2. We'll welcome Ingrid back into the space.
Hi there.
Hi, Ingrid. Yeah, who indeed will protect us from the dark if it rises again? Who indeed?
Well, there are 3 more books in the series.
I having not read the books, I'm curious if you know the answer to this, and maybe you don't. It's probably unfair to ask. Do you have any idea whether the BBC will do a dramatization of the other books? I mean, why start with one? Or well,
I have no idea whether they will or not, but the second book in the series is considered to be the strongest book. There's a book, there's like a prequel to it that involves finding the Holy Grail, or a copy of the Grail, Arthur's Grail. But the story really comes into its own in this version. And then in the next 3 books, we meet the kids from the first book and Will, so that there's the four of them continue on to have these adventures where they help the light defeat the dark. And then there's one final kid that joins the gang in the 4th book, who is also a time traveler.
So this starts on Will's 11th birthday-ish?
Yep.
By the time the books finish, how old is Will?
Well, it's only been 13 days.
Yeah,
really?
I mean the whole series.
Oh, the whole series. Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, because this only goes from like Christmas Eve to New Year's-ish, just before
That's
Christmas.
right. Yeah, it's the 12 days of Christmas, I think.
Yeah, but
so the series
there are
itself,
adventures to come.
Adventures to come. I'm not sure. It's time doesn't mean very much in this series.
Right. But he remains a youth then, I guess, is
he
what
does.
what we're saying. It's not like we're going to see him as a 30-year-old time traveler.
No, he might end up maybe 14 or 15.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Friends, if you have thoughts about this episodes, and hopefully you experienced both nights with us. If not, they will be up on the YouTube channel for you to re-listen to. But I would love to know if you have any thoughts about what you experienced. If you have any questions about Ingrid, you were confused at some parts in this story. Ingrid is our guide as an Uber fan.
I'll be your old one.
You'll be my old one. I love it. We got a hand from Lori.
Order. Audio now unmuted.
Well, I want to say that I was on the edge of my seat the whole time during.
You said that last week too, Lori.
Yep. It really absorbs you on this, and I think it really is good to use headphones for it, because you can hear everything, happening all around you, with the headphones on and everything. And I think I normally don't like to read these type of books, but I think I'd like to read the book and see what the difference is from what we just listened to the last 2 weeks.
Right, because as we mentioned at the beginning, this is a dramatization, so it is like an audio play versus an audio book.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I'd like to try to read the book and see if I enjoyed just as much as what we have enjoyed the last 2 weeks.
Well, and I imagine, and Ingrid is the best one to answer this question, having read the whole series, but obviously it's a much deeper dive into the characters and into the plot than what we experience with the audio, with the dramatization.
Definitely, the audio book of The Dark is Rising is, I think, about 7 hours long altogether, because it is the entire book. And so there's a lot more nuance and an opportunity for the reader to kind of integrate a lot of the information, because in this dramatization, details fly past us so quickly that you don't always understand the symbolism of
no, is it all one book or is it a series?
It's a series. It's 5 books altogether, and they're all available on Audible.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
wow, that's a
Good.
big.
I have about 16 credits with Audible, so I can go use some.
That's great.
I'll go look. It's called the darkness is the name
dark
of it.
is rising.
The dark is rising. Okay, I'll remember that because I think I'd like to get the books and read them and see what I think after, and normally I don't read these type of books, but I've gotten interested.
Are they
Sometimes
on Amazon
after
as well?
hang on. Sometimes after experiencing something new, that's you get a taste for something. Christy, we'll take your question in a moment, but Tilo's got his hand up first, and then I'll come call on you. Okay?
Yep.
Just to keep everything in the right order. So Tilo, and then Christy.
Hello.
Hi.
I got to listen to this episode earlier today, the first one, because someone last week called me and I missed some of it, so I didn't get to concentrate what was going on. So I couldn't follow it that much. But from the audio, what I heard, I enjoyed it very much. And it's a wonderful series. I think I'd like to read the book myself. And I was just thinking, the person who was singing the narration of the Darkest Night, he kind of reminds me of Leonard Cohen's from his last album.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, he does have that kind of hoarse raspiness to his voice, hey?
Yeah, and kind of slow, melodic or something.
Yeah,
and gloomy.
And gloomy.
Yeah, kind of
gloomy.
Yeah, but I thought everything was put together quite well. Even some of the sound effects in the background that I couldn't catch some of it because, sometimes you hear it's a little bit higher than the voice. It's or the same level as the voice, but it doesn't interfere with the voice. Mm-hmm. So very clarity like that, I guess, because the surround sound. I have nothing to say about this book. I'd like to, when you post the second one, I will watch it again, and I would like to read the book, I guess.
All 5 of them. You got to read all 5 of them.
All 5. Yeah. And you said it's on what, Kindle or
Audible?
Audible. Okay.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure they're available on Kindle as well.
Maybe they might even be available on Sela in Canada. But we'll do a little bit of research and share with you in the follow-up email where you can find the books.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tilo. Okay, Christy, you're up.
I liked having my headphones on because that was the most experience ever. Because without them, you can't hear all the sound effects. There was more sound effects between 10 and 11, and it was a real nice put together book. Like everything, there wasn't too many spaces, there wasn't too many, everything just got put together properly. And I would like to purchase all the book if I can. And can you see if it's available on Amazon? Because I don't have Audible.
It is available on Amazon, and Audible is an Amazon product. So if you have an Amazon account, you can get the Audible books through there.
Oh, okay.
That is the book series you're talking about, Christy, right? Not this BBC series.
Yeah, the book series.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far the BBC has only done this one book.
Yeah.
And that kid that plays in the book, he sounds maybe about 13, 14. So, but he's a good actor for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes you get really, I'll just say not so great kid actors. I could use other words, but we'll say not so talented. But he's pretty good. And he's definitely older than 11 in real life.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. Thanks, Christy, for sharing your thoughts. Megan's got a hand. Give Megan a moment to unmute. I can't get the theme song.
There you go.
Theme song I can't get out of my head.
I know it's a real
that was
earworm.
amazing. That was amazing, especially with the pre from the. It felt like that part. It felt like a ritual. Was it actually a ritual that was made even before the book was even written, or did you just make it up? Because it sounds so Wiccan, so Celtic. It felt really different. I really loved it. Really loved it.
It really does. Susan Cooper studied English at Oxford, and two of her professors were J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings.
I had one of his books.
And the other one was C.S. Lewis, who wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so, she comes from this tradition that pulls from Celtic mythology and Norse mythology and the Arthurian legends. So that really does.
So, you mean those words actually came from those legends?
They were inspired by those legends. I don't know if she actually found, original text, but it's what she has written is very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I got the book here. That's C.S. Lewis. This is one with audio, and I got Lord of the Rings. Which I have it here. Hold on. I have it.
I have not read the Lord of the Rings books. I had the paperback when I had sight, and I couldn't get through them.
Oh my gosh, I have one of his.
Then I saw the movies and I loved them. I couldn't get through them. And then when I
Here
lost
it
my
is.
sight, I thought I
Here it
did
is.
the audiobook.
They're all
I haven't
Tolkien.
yet.
Right here.
So Megan's got a whole collection.
I find Tolkien to be a bit of a slog myself.
Yeah, which is probably why the movies is a great, because there's so much action and the music and the stuff that goes with it. Because and wasn't, I don't remember specifically the history of Tolkien, but was he one of the guys that was a part of, or like took inspiration from like World War I or something? I sort of remember loosely
possibly he's the right age.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible that the conflict in the Lord of the Rings was inspired by the conflict.
Yeah, there was something about the camaraderie of men.
Right.
That I think I remember hearing when we were studying literature back in my high school days about like the brotherhood, the brotherhood that is in Lord of the Rings, being reminiscent of that of soldiers in World War I.
Well, that makes total sense.
I could be very much wrong about that, but or that could have just been like the poetic license of a literature teacher of the time. Sue has a hand. So Sue, what's your thoughts or questions?
About the Lord of the Rings.
About anything you want.
Well, I used to read the Lord of the Rings every summer.
Wow.
When I was at UBC, that was sort of my reward for the summer, and I used to read it outside. And there's all kinds of stuff in the beginning of the book that talks about Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and them. They had a group called the Inklings. And they'd sit around talking about things. And Tolkien wrote all night. And he started like in the 1930s. And he worked on it. He worked on the Lord of the Rings till 1955 or something. And he wrote it all longhand.
Oh, of course.
Because it would, well, no, they had typewriters then, but he found it easier to pen things when you write by hand. And so anyway, these guys all got together and wrote things, but neither of them were Wiccan.
No, C.S. Lewis was a famous Christian.
Yeah, they both were.
Oh.
Actually. And there was another then, and G.J. Chesterton, he was part of them too. And like they did Celtic or Celtic, whichever way you want to pronounce it, and Norse mythology had a lot to do with it, but they were trying to do good over evil and kind of demonstrate it that way. But they were fascinated of all these traditions, so they made up ones that were kind of like it, like, you know, the thing in Lord of the Rings where it says one ring to bind them, one ring to whatever it is. I should have remembered it, but
one ring to rule them all.
Well, yeah, and in
one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them.
Yeah, and this thing that Will Stanton had, that was kind of like that.
Yeah, but, the circle of the signs.
But when you figure that he spent all night writing this, and then Tolkien was in the daytime a professor. Yeah.
What you're saying is he didn't get a lot of sleep.
No, I guess he
worked all day and he wrote all night.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Although he might have had classes mostly in the morning hours and slept all afternoon or worked, you know, because they don't always have shifts all day. But anyway, I don't know how to lower hand, so you'll have to lower it.
Oh, we'll take care of that for you soon.
Okay.
Not a problem at all.
So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. What's your favorite part of this series, Ingrid?
Oh, gee. The third book is called Greenwich. And I really like it because it's centered around Jane, the one girl in the gang of kids. And it takes place in Cornwall, so it has a lot of, Cornish legends and mythology attached to it. Whereas The Dark is Rising is set in the place where Susan Cooper grew up in Buckinghamshire, which is just a little bit west of London. And as it said, the Thames runs through Buckinghamshire before it gets down to London. And the description of the lanes and the alleys of the little town are authentic. They're the lanes and the alleys of her little town where she grew up.
Well, we often, hear that writers write what they know, and obviously she doesn't know time travel, but there are things that she knows that she can bring real richness to in terms of how she writes about it, because it is so fresh and well known to her.
And the manor house exists.
Yeah, which is, that's one of the things that becomes so evocative is when writers can do that.
Yeah.
Especially in this kind of, I don't call this, this kind of mythological type genre.
Technically, it's called low fantasy.
Low fantasy. That's a new thing for me. Is there a high fantasy?
There is a high fantasies are fictional stories that take place in an alternative world or worlds, and low fantasy take place in our world but have fantastical elements that intrude into our world.
Wow. I had no idea, but thank you for that. I'm gonna now try and classify other books I know by low and high that way. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Well, Ingrid, it's been really lovely having you in the space with us and sharing a bit about, your experience with these novels. Sounds like a lot of folks are interested in reading them, so I hope that they check them out and let us know what their experience was. And my guess would be, this is just a total guess, but like, why would the BBC invest in one book of such a popular series and not consider because it sounds to me that this has been a really popular podcast because it was chunked up into episodes, and it was our own in-house wizard that divided them into just 2 seamless chunks for us. Otherwise it would be a little bit not as seamless a listen to, we will say. So we have our own in-house wizard. And
what's his name? Rick.
Yeah. Rick, the in-house wizard. But I get my understanding is that the series itself, the podcast series, was really, really popular.
That's what I understand too.
If it has anything to do with ratings, I imagine they'll do another one.
Well, let's write and tell them.
That's right. Let's start a petition.
From your Canadian fans, from your North American fans.
North American fans, that's right. We got some US folks joining us as well. So Ingrid, if you want to throw out any other books, we're going to circulate a couple of books in the same kind of genre.
Yeah,
what would you recommend?
I really like a series of books by Terry Pratchett about an apprentice witch named Tiffany Aching, and these are high fantasy. And there's a series of 5 books, and it's for fantasy, it's very, very humanistic. It's charming, it's funny, and it's very, very moving. So the first book in that series is called The Wee Free Men. And the Wee Free Men are little Scottish pixies, about the size of your thumb, I think, who Tiffany encounters and ends up sort of being their protector, but they're also look out for her in her series of adventures, and they are hilarious.
So we as in small.
Wee
men.
The wee men. Yeah, the Wee Free Men.
Awesome. That sounds like something I could be interested in. I like that kind of fantasy. So thank you for the recommendation.
Oh, you're welcome. We'll have to have a book club.
Yeah, right. That's right. Maybe. Who knows? Before we let you disappear for the evening, back into your own fantasy / reality of your house, got a prize draw.
Oh, goody.
Prize draw to do. So here's Donna with her bag of names, her magical bag of names.
Okay.
Yes. Ingrid, you know the drill. I'm shaking up names.
Shake, shake.
Say whatever low fantasy.
Low fantasy.
Is that the word?
Low fantasy.
Okay. And the winner is Ellen.
Ellen! Congratulations, Ellen.
Yay.
Love it. Low fantasy is the word. Ellen will connect with you offline and get your prize. Ingrid, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you too. This was so fun.
It was fun to listen to. I can't wait to get back into the space with us.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.